Hey guys, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria, and in this video I'm going to discuss irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. Specifically what it is, symptoms related to IBS, my experience with it, and what you can do to start managing your condition today. So what is IBS? Irritable bowel syndrome is a condition within the gut where the gut pretty much malfunctions. And this can be due to what they believe is a miscommunication between the vagus nerve, which is the major nerve that runs down through the gut that helps to control its proper functioning, as well as putting things in your body that irritate the gut. So what happens is the gastrocolic reflex pretty much stops working, and it's a muscular reflex that controls peristalsis, or the movement of food through the colon. And what happens is the colon goes into a spasm, so the gastrocolic reflex can trigger this, actually. It depends on what you're putting in your system and whether or not this reflex is going to work properly, especially for somebody suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. So you can think about it like a muscular reflex, so we contract our muscles in order to, do something to use them. Well, for somebody who's suffering from IBS, the gastrocolic reflex can leave the muscle in a spasm. So that's essentially what it is. The symptoms that can come up from this are constipation, diarrhea, and then major gas and bloating are the primary symptoms associated with IBS. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome back in 2006 while I was in college. I was having chronic daily symptoms that I was suffering from. It was interfering with my social life, with my studies, with my sport. So I was really, and it was also probably interfering majorly with my ability to absorb nutrients from my food. There was a few things that I was doing at the time that was definitely making my condition worse. And after seeing the doctors, I decided to quit drinking as much alcohol, and I cut out fast foods, which are oily foods and things that were high in fat, because I was weight conscious at the time, and I was also trying to experiment with ways to help improve my gut functioning. But unfortunately, the doctors really didn't give me any dietary advice that helped. They told me to eat bran, which is high in insoluble fiber. For anybody who's suffering from irritable bowel syndrome and has recovered or managed it, you'll know that insoluble fiber can actually be a trigger for IBS spasms. And then they also put me on prescription medication, but at the time there wasn't any prescription medication that was specifically for IBS. So they were giving me things like Nexium, which I believe is for like GERD or heartburn or acid reflux. And so I decided to ditch all that stuff and start doing my own dietary experiments. What happened is I ended up coming across the Help for IBS website. Now they offer a lot of information there explaining what IBS is, because nobody had really explained it to me, so I really didn't understand what I was going through. They do a really good job of explaining what IBS is and also offering dietary solutions. So they have 3 categories of food groups that you either want to avoid, minimize, or eat. So known as trigger foods, cautionary foods, or safe foods. Now the trigger foods are all the foods that you should, as an IBS sufferer, avoid. Mainly they're high fat foods. So that's something I intuitively had ditched out of my diet, but high fat foods include red meat, poultry, egg yolks, oils, margarine, coconut, nuts, seeds, etc. All animal products, dairy products, egg products, like I had said, as well as high-fat plant foods, like oils, especially anything that's really super concentrated in fats, as well as vinegars and other stimulants like nicotine, caffeine, carbonation, alcohol. all of those foods pretty much irritate the colon. So they make the gastrocolic reflex spasm, and then it stays contracted like that until something comes into the system that allows it to relax. So, and we'll get into that. Next is cautionary foods. These are foods that are high in insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber will also trigger the gastrocolic reflex to malfunction and cause the colon to spasm, and it's because insoluble fiber is also an irritant to the gut. Insoluble fiber is found in your typical health foods, leafy greens, beans, whole grains like corn, millet, wheat. Lots of fruits contain insoluble fiber. So those are other things that you want to minimize, especially if you're having a lot of symptoms. And then you have your safe foods. Safe foods are high in soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is like a gel or a sponge, so it doesn't contain anything that can irritate the colon. So what happens is you put the soluble fiber in your gut, and it causes everything to relax. So it gets rid of that spasm, and things can go out and things can move through properly, and you can minimize your symptoms. So that's what I've done, is I've made the majority of my diet soluble fiber foods, and because of that I've been able to manage irritable bowel syndrome to the fullest extent, to the point where I'm not suffering from symptoms at all, or very rarely. And mistakes that I made in the beginning is that I wanted to avoid the safe foods, which include white rice, baked potatoes, pasta noodles, quinoa, yams, potatoes, pumpkin, squashes, the winter squashes, bananas, avocado, applesauce, mango, papaya. These are all foods that are soft. And they contain a lot of soluble fiber. But when I first came onto the diet, I was like, oh, I can't eat these foods because they're high in carbohydrates. So I was following a high protein diet. And as soon as I switched to a high carbohydrate, low fat diet, even back in 2012, even though it was high in insoluble fiber, I still had a lot of relief because I cut out other trigger foods. And then over time, as I've refined my diet and I learned more about IBS and utilized the Help for IBS website, I was able to find even more success in relieving my condition by adding particularly white rice to my diet, as well as baked potatoes. And I still have those foods very regularly, and they keep my gut happy and me healthy. So one thing I want to mention about carbohydrates, a lot of people think that carbohydrates make them fat, particularly refined carbohydrates like white rice. Well, just for an example, traditional Asian cultures have been living on a white rice and vegetable predominant diet for thousands of years, and to this day they are the largest population of peoples in the world that have the lowest incidence of disease and no weight problems. So is white rice really the culprit, or is it all the meat and butter and oils and things that we're adding to it? Because white rice by itself is a healthy food. I've been consuming it in large quantities for the past 3 years, and I've never been healthier in my life. So just something to consider if you're kind of like, oh, I can't eat carbohydrates, and have that same mentality that I had when I first came to the Help for IBS diet. So hopefully the information in this video you found it helpful, especially if you're a IBS sufferer. I will leave a link in the description below to the Help for IBS website. Please check it out if you are a sufferer and you're looking for relief today. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please give it a like if you did find it helpful. You can always contact me for more help with IBS. I'll leave my website in the description below as well. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and have a wonderful, healthy day. Bye.